This story featuring Aladdin, a boy who asks a giant where he comes from. Despite his doubts, the giant tells him that he cannot answer anything related to his origin. However, due to his insistence, he promises to fulfill any wish he asks for. Limitless wealth, unimaginable power, or even immortality will be his if he desires. When it comes to choosing, Aladdin asks the giant for the only dream he has had for a long time. Now we focus on a young man named Ali Baba, who works tirelessly to fulfill his dream of conquering the labyrinth of mysterious structures that appeared several years ago, and in which resides great power along with countless riches that are bestowed upon the person who conquers it. Following his daily routine, Ali Baba carries out his work without much difficulty, but a small exception arises that gets him into several problems. At night he tries to rest, but he encounters Aladdin again. Since arguing doesn't get him much, he tells Aladdin about the dungeons. The next morning, Aladdin asks for the location of this place, and Ali Baba points out the labyrinth located in the city that appeared 10 years ago, which is the 7th Dungeon Ammon. While they talk about the power of money, Aladdin stumbles upon Morgiana, a girl who turns out to be a slave. He quickly approaches her and breaks her chains by playing the flute hanging around his neck. However, Boodle, who is Ali Baba's boss, arrives seconds later and hits the girl several times. Because of this, Aladdin asks him to stop, and when he is about to be attacked by the man's bodyguard, he plays the flute and it appears in the arms of a being that instantly takes care of the group. When the arms look at Morgiana, they turn red and hide back into the flute because the giant captain, whose name is Hugo, is embarrassed to speak to women. The city guards appear due to the commotion and each one runs away from the scene on their own. After hiding, Ali Baba asks Aladdin about the flute and he tells him that Hugo, his dear friend, resides in the object, who is also called a genie by everyone. Ali Baba gets excited upon hearing this, and meanwhile Djinn, the chief of the city, discusses the matter with Boodle. At night, Aladdin tells Ali Baba about his journey and mentions that he made a promise with Hugo to find the metallic vessel of the genie and find another genie like him. Later, Boodle meets with them, asking Ali to pay his debt or work for him. And the next day, they leave in a carriage to deliver a shipment of wine from the neighboring city, along with a group of slaves who will be used to work in the mines. Halfway through the journey, a giant monster emerges from the earth drawn by the scent of the cargo, causing a slave girl to fall from the carriage alongside Morgiana, who reaches out her arm to try to save her. In a moment of distress, Aladdin decides to act on his own to rescue her, with the help of Hugo. He uses his magical turban to transport all the wine cargo into the creature's interior. Djinn observes the area from afar and then asks Aladdin for the same wish he asked Hugo for, which is to become friends. Aladdin and Ali Baba venture into the dungeon. After narrowly escaping drowning and being burned, our brave protagonists encounter an army of alien ants. With the aid of Hugo's power, they manage to defeat them, but Aladdin collapses from exhaustion. It turns out that each time he summons his magical friend, it consumes some of his own energy, and he can only do so a limited number of times before needing to recharge and take a rest. Ali Baba tends to him while he's unconscious, and at that moment they are surprised by Morgiana, the magenta-haired slave from the previous episode, who has entered the dungeon with her master, Sharif Jamil, and another slave named Goltaz in search of Aladdin, who Sharif refers to as the Magi. Jamil takes Aladdin away and manages to persuade Ali Baba to join his group. They continue exploring, and it's Ali Baba's turn to deactivate a particularly dangerous trap that engulfs him in flames once disabled. Aladdin regains consciousness and is left in charge of Morgiana, while the other two press forward. When Aladdin manages to earn Morgiana's trust, they converse mainly about Morgiana's past and the chains that bind her to Jamil. As Morgiana recounts to Aladdin how Ali Baba supposedly died, unexpectedly he appears before them. They quickly escape together and find themselves in front of a massive door that requires the use of both hands and a magical incantation to open. The door fades away, revealing an impressive underground city. While Aladdin and Ali Baba explore the deserted city, Jamil punishes Morgiana for a wrong answer. A slime mimics Jamil's words, frightening him. Elsewhere, Aladdin and Ali Baba reach the treasure room, where Goltaz appears and collapses before them. While Goltaz distracts them, Morgiana throws Aladdin across the room. Jamil orders Morgiana to chase Aladdin while he confronts Ali Baba. They both fight with swords, but Ali Baba easily dodges Jamil's attacks and knocks him down. Jamil is surprised at how Ali Baba can outsmart him. When Ali Baba corners Jamil, he orders Morgiana to save him. Morgiana rushes towards Jamil from the other side of the room, but the blonde-haired boy tries to persuade Morgiana to join him, yet she throws him against the stairs. Jamil taunts Ali Baba, mistreats Morgiana, and repeatedly stomps on Ali Baba, ordering Morgiana to kill him. Despite recalling Jamil's brutal actions, Morgiana hesitates to kill Ali Baba, but ultimately gives in to Jamil's command. At that moment, Aladdin destroys Morgiana's sword and demands that Djinn will return his flute. When Morgiana attempts to attack Aladdin, he combines his power with hers. Recalling his master's vision of a great magus, Djinn realizes that Aladdin is that magus. Djinn asks Aladdin to make him king after returning his flute, but Aladdin refuses, deeming him unworthy. Later, Aladdin and Ali Baba encounter Amun, who reveals the purpose of the Magi to them. Suddenly, the tower is struck from the outside, causing it to collapse. Despite Ali Baba's urgency for Djinn's group to accompany them, Goltaz frees Morgiana and suggests that she go with them while he and Djinn face their fate. As they exit, Ali Baba and Aladdin converse about their goals and promise each other more adventures. In Kishan, Ali Baba is welcomed by the villagers but discovers that Aladdin has disappeared. Meanwhile, in the plains, members of the Kuda clan find Aladdin asleep. In a distant ancient land, Ali Baba is visited by Morgiana, who deeply thanks him for using the treasure he had acquired to free all the slaves, including herself. With a heart full of gratitude and determination, Ali Baba decides to embark on a journey outside the city in search of his lost friend. Meanwhile, in a remote village inhabited by nomads, Aladdin awakens and is welcomed by the leader of the Kuda clan, Baba. Soon, the first princess of the Ku Empire, Hakui Ren, arrives at the village with the intention of persuading the clan to join the empire. However, Baba firmly rejects her offer, fearing the potential consequences of forced annexation by the empire. Faced with the imminent danger of the empire's threat, Aladdin approaches the princess in the hope of finding a peaceful solution. The princess promises to resolve the conflict without resorting to violence. Meanwhile, a group of slave traders kidnaps some women from the Kuba clan, and a team of warriors sets out to rescue them, with a warning to avoid shedding blood to prevent a war. While Aladdin and Baba anxiously await the return of the rescue team, Baba shares the story of the Kuba clan's glorious past when they were once the most powerful empire in the world under the reign of a king chosen by a magician. After the warriors successfully return with the rescued women, having kept their promise not to shed blood, Baba makes the decision to join the Q Empire in the interest of peace and security for his clan. Later, amidst the celebration around the fire, Baba momentarily excuses himself and withdraws to attend to a personal need. However, his absence prolongs more than expected, and just as Aladdin begins to wonder why he's taking so long, Arrow strikes Baba. As Aladdin rushes to take Baba and get treatment for his wounds, Hakui learns of the death of one of her soldiers from an arrow coming from the Kuba clan. Leaving the army under the command of her assistant, Ryosei, she decides to investigate herself to uncover the truth behind the attack. However, while she is absent, one of the soldiers of the Q Empire reveals that the Kuba clan did not kill any of their men, but it was a tactic to provoke war. Ryosei confirms this Machiavellian plan and prepares the troops for the conflict. Hakui confronts the clan, but her attempt at peace is thwarted when she gets injured by refusing to defend herself. Baba, whom Aladdin brings there at her request, reaffirms his decision to join the Q Empire as a protectorate and allows the princess to return. However, following Baba's death due to his wounds, his spirit manifests before Aladdin, revealing his true identity as a magician. Upon returning to the camp, Hakui discovers Ryosei's plot to assassinate her and take control of the troops. In a desperate confrontation, she and her assistant, Cesian, fight bravely but are overwhelmed when Hakui's metal vessel runs out of Magoi. It is then that Aladdin arrives and uses his magical abilities to defeat Ryosei and the troops. During the confrontation, Aladdin notices Hakui's metal vessel and discovers the presence of Payman, the Djinn enclosed within the container. Payman reveals to Aladdin that Hakui is the chosen candidate by a magician to become the king of the Q Empire. After bidding farewell to the Kuba clan, Aladdin informs its members about a slave named Goltaz who happens to be part of his clan and offers them his assistance. Later, Aladdin joins a caravan in search of reuniting with Ali Baba. While Sasha and Layla keep themselves busy selling their goods in the bustling market, Morgiana arrives with a massive load. After thanking Sasha and Layla for their help, Morgiana reveals her determination to return to her homeland to fulfill an important duty. As they explore the city, the group notices the unusual absence of people due to the constant threat of bandits. Layla encounters a slave trader named Fatima, while Morgiana watches helplessly as a group of slaves remains under her control. During the night, Morgiana wakes up disturbed by a nightmare in which she's haunted by memories of her past with Jumio. Layla tries to comfort her and offers medication, sharing with her how Sasha and a mysterious child helped her through tough times. The following day, Morgiana is informed that the caravan must divert onto an alternative route due to the ongoing presence of bandits. In the bandits' hideout, Morgiana bravely confronts them, impressing Fatima with her skill and agility. However, she falls into a trap when a crow sent by Fatima poisons her, leaving her defenseless. In another nightmare, Morgiana encounters a young girl named Nadja and promises to protect her. Back in the city, Layla notices Morgiana's absence and joins a group to search for her. Meanwhile, in the bandit's cell, Morgiana witnesses Fatima's cruelty towards Naja. Inspired by the comforting voice of Goltaz in her mind, Morgiana frees the slaves and defeats the bandits, rescuing Naja and reuniting her with her parents. Aladdin reveals that the bandits attack the caravan and the group heads towards the bandits' hideout to put an end to the threat. After resolving the situation, Aladdin and Morgiana decide to head to Balbad, where Aladdin asks Morgiana to allow him to call her Mor, symbolizing their increasingly close bond. The Nando brothers venture through the arid desert and delve into the lush forest, where they find Sinbad asleep, adorned with a jewel ornament surrounding him. Shortly after, Morgiana and Aladdin arrive in the forest. Morgiana expresses her gratitude towards Aladdin and announces her decision to return to her homeland. However, their encounter is interrupted by Sinbad, who wakes up naked and greets them kindly. Gathering around a campfire, Sinbad listens fascinated to Aladdin's adventures and shares his own ambitions. When Morgiana detects the scent of the sea, they all run towards a hill from where they behold the majestic kingdom of Balbad. Sinbad kindly offers to take them on a tour of the city while providing information about trade, the royal family, and economic inequality. As a gesture of gratitude, he provides them with accommodation. However, when the guards attempt to detain Sinbad, Jafar intervenes, reminding him of his duty as the king of Sindria. In the privacy of his room, Sinbad laments being stripped of his attire and equipment, which irritates Jafar, who reminds him of his responsibilities as a monarch. During an audience with King Ahmed, Sinbad seeks to restore trade with Sindria, surprising Aladdin upon hearing Alibaba's name linked to the Fog Troop. Sinbad decides to address the issue personally and later invites Morgiana and Aladdin to lunch, introducing them to his generals. During the meal, Sinbad discovers Aladdin's lack of knowledge about his own history and reveals information about Magi and Djinn. Additionally, he requests Aladdin's help in capturing the thieves, which prompts opposition from Jafar. Despite Morgiana's doubts concerned about the morality of capturing popular thieves, she agrees to help due to her concern for the impact on trade. In a risky operation, Morgiana and Aladdin confront a red mist that induces hallucinations. Though Jafar manages to capture the thieves, the situation becomes complicated when a black mist affects Jafar and Morgiana is caught by Qasim. In a surprising twist, Aladdin summons Hugo and comes face to face with Alibaba, leaving him stunned by his unexpected appearance. Aladdin fixes his gaze on Alibaba, who asks him to imprison Hugo despite Jafar's objections. Reluctantly, Aladdin complies, reminding Alibaba of his promise to explore the world together. Alibaba, visibly affected, apologizes for not keeping that promise, leaving Aladdin speechless. When the Balbad military police arrive, Alibaba, consumed by anger, summons the flames of Ammon in a burst of fury. The next day, Sinbad talks with Jafar about Alibaba. While in the bandits' hideout, Qasim welcomes the Nando brothers. Alibaba introduces the brothers as benevolent thieves fighting for the underprivileged. Later, he confronts Qasim about including thugs in their group, expressing his disagreement with their methods. In a private conversation with Morgiana, Alibaba is kidnapped by her, taking him on a journey across the rooftops. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Jafar discusses the Q Empire and the political situation in Balbad. In Aladdin's room, they both reflect on their goals, and Morgiana, in an unexpected turn of events, throws Alibaba out of the window. Between Aladdin and Alibaba, there's a moment of awkwardness until Morgiana demands an explanation. After sharing some happy experiences from the past, Alibaba reveals his complicated history with Qasim, from their childhood to their adult lives. He discovers his true identity as the son of the king of Balbad and confronts his royal destiny. Before he can fully assimilate it, he is attacked, and Qasim devises a plan to rescue him. Alibaba finds himself gathered with Aladdin and Morgiana, sharing details about his past with them. Meanwhile, from the adjoining room, Sinbad discreetly listens to Alibaba's conversation. Elsewhere in Balbad, Alibaba is determined to uncover the truth about what's happened in his hometown. During a raid on a ship, he has an unexpected encounter with Qasim, who takes him to Miriam's tomb. Qasim reveals how the government caused a fire in the poorest neighborhoods, claiming it was an epidemic. He founded the Fog Troop to fight against this injustice and defend the underprivileged. He urges Alibaba to join his cause as a leader. As Aladdin listens to his friend's story, he finds parallels with the situation of the Kuba clan, connecting the dots between the struggles of both groups. Seeing Alibaba's frustration, Aladdin resorts to a firm gesture to snap him out of the trance, assuring him that he has his support, as well as Morgiana's. Amidst the conversation, Qasim and his gang burst into the room, triggering a confrontation with Sinbad and his crew. Concerned about the situation, Morgiana seeks Alibaba's guidance. Masr intervenes in the fight, facing off against Qasim's gang. Despite Qasim's attempts to escape, he is captured by Masr. When Sinbad reveals Alibaba's true identity as a prince, Alibaba feels offended and distrustful of the captain's intentions. In a tense moment, Alibaba unleashes his power, but he is easily defeated by Sinbad, who points out his limitations in using the powers of his Djinn. Sinbad surprises everyone by offering his help to the Fog Troop, expressing his desire to stop injustices in the slums. Although initially distrustful, Alibaba accepts Sinbad's offer, acknowledging their shared goal of restoring balance in the world. The next day, the townspeople gather at the palace with renewed hope, while Alibaba makes a request to Ahmed to help the needy. However, Ahmed is reluctant to cooperate. Meanwhile, Aladdin senses the threat of Judar and the Black Rook lurking in the shadows. Judar presents himself as an oracle in the service of the Ku Empire, claiming to have unfinished business with Ahmed. Despite Alibaba's protests, Ahmed reveals to Sinbad that following the advice of his financial advisor Markio, he has relinquished all commercial rights of Balbad to the Ku Empire, rendering it unable to resume trade with Sindria. Back at the Fog Troop's base, Sinbad informs the people from the slums about the failure of the negotiations with Ahmed. However, they notice the absence of Qasim and his comrades. At that moment, Judar appears before Sinbad, who notices the strange behavior of the Rook around Aladdin. Sinbad then reveals that Aladdin is a magician just like Judar. Sin previo aviso Judar ataka Aladdin, lanzando hielo hacia al. Hugo intervene para proteger Aladdin, pero Judar continua con su ofensiva, herindo gravemente a Hugo. Aladdin intenta hacer Hugo toca la flauta para sanarse, pero Hugo se niega. In the end, Judar impales Hugo with a massive ice lance. However, the Djinn uses his last strength to crush Judar with his own hands, seeming to not respond to Aladdin's commands and sacrificing himself to protect the latter. Judar is saved from being killed by the princess of the Ku Empire and her assistant Kalbanka, who heal him of his wounds. Hugo attempts to attack them, but the princess, with the help of her Djinn Vinya, manages to defeat him. Aladdin, furious about the situation, confronts the princess, who orders her servants to attack everyone. However, Sinbad intervenes and persuades the princess to retreat. While attending to the wounded from the battle, Alibaba and Morgiana come across an exhausted Aladdin, who has nearly depleted all his Magoi in an attempt to revive Hugo and is in critical condition. Feeling powerless for not being able to help and with Qasim still missing, Alibaba receives a visit from his other brother, the Vizier Sabmad. Sinbad reveals that it was Sabmad who was leaking information about the army to the Fog Troop, explaining that he did so to protect Alibaba, who was considered the only one capable of stopping Ahmed. He further reveals that Ahmed, after incurring a massive debt with the Ku Empire, intends to pay it off by selling the people of Balbad as slaves. Upon hearing this, Morgiana urges Alibaba to oppose his brother and the injustices he is committing. Before returning to the palace, Sabmad warns Alibaba that in 5 days Ahmed will marry one of the princesses of the Ku Empire, and at that event he will announce his decision to turn the people of Balbad into slaves. Later, while Aladdin still shows no signs of waking up, Sinbad informs Alibaba that to stop Ahmed's plans and prevent the Ku Empire from taking over the country, he must assume the throne of Balbad. As Alibaba ponders over this idea while wandering the streets, Qasim, who is among the remnants of the Fog Troop, approaches him. He reveals to Alibaba that he already knows about Ahmed's slavery plan and, with the help of the arms dealer who provides him with his magical tools, intends to start a rebellion in 2 days. However, Alibaba refuses to cooperate with him and asserts that he will seek a solution that doesn't involve anyone's death. After Qasim walks away, Alibaba seeks out Sinbad and asks him to teach him how to properly use his Djinn. Sometime later, Morgiana tries to find Alibaba without success and realizes that he has gone to confront his brother alone. Meanwhile, at the gates of the palace, Alibaba stands before the guards, introducing himself as the third prince of Balbad and requests permission to enter to confront Ahmed. Alibaba manages to penetrate the palace grounds, but Ahmed sends one of the 3 powerful royal guards of the Ku Empire to eliminate him. After finally managing to equip himself properly with Ayman's sword, Alibaba defeats the first guard in an intense battle, but is then confronted by the second guard and his army of monkeys, who block his path. At that critical moment, Morgiana appears to fight in his place, allowing Alibaba to advance. While Morgiana faces the second guard with her strength and superhuman abilities, Alibaba battles the third guard. However, he runs out of Magoi during the confrontation. Cunningly, he creates a small flame using oil, just enough to momentarily ignite Ayman's sword and use it to defeat the third guard. Meanwhile, Sinbad learns of the situation and hurries to the palace to intervene if necessary. With all the guards finally defeated, Alibaba reaches the throne room where Ahmed orders his guards to execute him. However, Sabman intervenes on Alibaba's behalf, insisting that they must have a conversation between brothers without external interference. Tension in the throne room becomes palpable as the brothers confront their differences and try to find a solution for the future of Balbad. While Alibaba attempts to persuade Ahmed to resign, Kugyo Karen, the newly appointed princess, appears in an attempt to halt the commotion. She asserts that even if Ahmed is ousted from power, another king must be chosen to marry her as part of Balbad's agreement with the Ku Empire, and all agreements between the two countries, including the slavery treaty, must be upheld. In contrast, Alibaba declares that there will be no king because Balbad's monarchy will dissolve and adopt a democratic government instead. Sinbad joins the discussion, bringing along representatives from his confederation, the Seven Seas Alliance, and offers to discuss Balbad's inclusion in the alliance with the Emperor Kao in person, prompting Kogyoku to withdraw. As Alibaba communicates his decision to the people, the Rook strangely gathers around Aladdin and Juder, while Qasim and his men approach the palace. The crowd applauds Alibaba's proposal to turn Balbad into a republic. Qasim and his fog troop arrive at the scene. From afar, Ithnan observes the situation. Qasim shares his views, asserting that everything was for the people, but the aristocrats robbed them with taxes. Furthermore, he shouts that they cannot resurrect the dead. Zainab fuels the crowd's anger with her hallucinogenic red mist. Qasim orders everyone to overthrow the royalty, and the crowd begins to rebel as the Black Rook runs rampant. Elsewhere, Jafar attempts to awaken Aladdin. In Aladdin's dream, he wakes up to see the talking head of Hugo. Hugo assures Aladdin that he is still alive but was nearly dead due to a battle with Juder. In Balbad, Markio tries to suppress the Black Rook, but Ithnan crushes him. Ithnan allows the Black Rook to overwhelm the White Rook. Meanwhile, Hugo talks about how Black Rook forms when the flow of destiny is reversed. He explains to Aladdin that he can no longer protect him and that he has something important to give him, the wisdom of Solomon. Deep within the vortex of knowledge, Solomon informs Aladdin that he will be reborn. Beside Aladdin, Jafar and Masrur assume it's time to head to the palace. In the palace, guards are being massacred and Barkek urges Sabmab to do something. However, Sabmab remains indecisive until Alibaba takes action. Alibaba orders half of the royal army to block the main gate, while the other half suppresses the invaders in the palace. Facing Qasim and his group, Alibaba demands an explanation for why they're doing all this, and Qasim asserts that he doesn't need equality or kings. When Qasim attacks Alibaba, the others use their black mist to restrain Alibaba. Alibaba unleashes his flames to free himself, and Zainab attacks him with her red mist. While Alibaba tries to stay focused, the others attempt to finish him off. However, Alibaba uses the sword of Amun to defend himself. He breaks Hassan's weapon and everyone else's swords. He orders Qasim to retreat, but Qasim demands that Alibaba kill him. Just as he's about to wield his sword, he transforms his weapon into his dagger. Alibaba weeps for Qasim and urges him to stop fighting. Qasim remarks that Alibaba has gone soft. Remembering Ithnan's instructions, she stabs herself with her sword and gathers all the remains of her allies' shattered swords, hitting her body. By absorbing all the objects, Qasim transforms into a dark Djinn, leaving everyone speechless. The monster's transformation has been a success, leaving all warriors in shock. Without hesitation, it immediately strikes down several with its fury. One of its attacks destroys a tower, but Morgiana saves a soldier just in time. Alibaba is paralyzed, facing Qasim. Morgiana steps forward and strikes the monster's head, causing it to fall. Instinctively, Alibaba cuts off Qasim's arm, only to witness Qasim regenerate using the Black Rook. Sinbad explains to Alibaba that he must put everything into a single attack to defeat Qasim. The king gives Alibaba some Magoi, and as Alibaba rushes towards Qasim, Juder intercepts and knocks him down. With Juder back on the battlefield, Ithman explains that his powers have increased, instructing him to finish off Alibaba. Unexpectedly, Juder takes control of Qasim and uses his ice spears to pin Sinbad against the wall. The villain then causes Qasim to grow wings and fires several blasts of dark energy towards our heroes. After Morgiana evades Qasim's attacks, Alibaba asks her to throw him so he can deliver the final blow. She launches Alibaba into the air and Juder attacks him. Combining his ice magic with Qasim's grabby magic, Juder shatters Alibaba's sword. Our hero asks Morgiana to try one last attempt. Remembering Alibaba's determination, his friend arrives. Aladdin uses his rooks to materialize into the form of Hugo, shielding himself from Juder's attacks. Aladdin then uses his Har Infigar to melt the ice, immobilizing Sinbad. Waste no time, the young man instructs Morgiana to bring Sinbad back to the city. He then tells Alibaba that he stands no chance against Juder alone. Aladdin insists they need each other's help. When Alibaba is pessimistic, Aladdin reveals that everyone's hope is still alive. As Aladdin collects the white rook from the people of Balbad, Ithman realizes that the young Magi has acquired the wisdom of Solomon. Using Solomon's wisdom, Aladdin absorbs the rook into his body. He explains to Alibaba that he must deliver the final blow to Qasim. When Alibaba is unsure, Aladdin reassures him using Har Har Infigar, transforming into flames that repair Alibaba's sword. While Judah hurls ice at them, the young man manages to dodge and finally stab Qasim. Inside the Black Djinn, Alibaba speaks with Qasim, who claims to have despised him since they met. Qasim wonders why he is the only one tainted by darkness while the protagonist radiates light. Qasim comments that he had his useless father's blood flowing through his veins while Alibaba has his mother's blood in him. Qasim stabs Alibaba in the chest with his black rook, and some of Alibaba's white rook flows into him. As a result, the wretched enemy hears Alibaba's words shattering his sword. All of a sudden, Qasim realizes what he has done and that he can never be like Alibaba. It's time to retreat. Qasim is absorbed into the tunnel. As his friend walks away, the young man tries to embrace him, but it's too late. Aladdin watches Alibaba holding his deceased friend. Meanwhile, Ithman is attacked and falls. Sinbad amplifies his magic and electrocutes Ithman with a powerful lightning bolt. Sinbad realizes only a doll has fallen. Aladdin tries to console his friend, saying the dead are always with them in their hearts and in the flow of the rook. Alibaba's parents appear before our hero, and Aladdin tells everyone to reunite with their loved ones. All the deceased return once more to have one last memory with their loved ones. Morgiana embraces both Aladdin and Alibaba. During Balbad's reconstruction, everyone pitches in to help citizens, with Alibaba working closely with representatives. Outside, Alibaba gets bitten by a snake until Barkak removes it. A soldier warns them of the approaching Q Empire fleet. Sinbad claims the Q Empire aims to control Balbad due to its lack of government, advising Alibaba to leave to avoid being seen as a threat. Alibaba refuses, so Sinbad knocks him out. Days later, Alibaba wakes in the cabin and sees a nearby island. Jafar informs him they've been given medication to keep them asleep during the journey to Sindria, where Sinbad is negotiating with the Q Empire to save Balbad and Alibaba. Months later, Morgiana trains with Masher until they hear Sinbad has returned. Later, Sinbad discusses a meeting with Alibaba and Aladdin, asserting Balbad's right to become a republic, albeit under Q Empire control. Alibaba vows to keep fighting as Sinbad explains Al-Thaman responsible for Balbad's economic crisis, offering 2 mentors to help them improve. A soldier reports a giant creature from the south. Outside, the creature ravages the island. Sinbad sends Yamareha and Shirkan to face it. Yamareha attacks with water magic. Shirkan begins to destroy it, turning it into a giant steak for the citizens. Sinbad introduces Yamareha to Aladdin and Alibaba. Shirkan arrives to get acquainted with Alibaba. Yamareha remarks on Alibaba potentially realizing Shirkan's foolishness, leading to an argument. Sinbad separates them. During the Maharajan celebration, Alibaba and Aladdin have fun, receiving lei from a young woman. Alibaba asks where Morgiana is, and she reveals herself. The young man compliments Morgiana, making her blush. Later, Alibaba asks Morgiana if she's sure about staying with them or returning home. She wants to fight with them to save the oppressed, which Aladdin agrees to. Morgiana dances happily with Aladdin and Alibaba's responses. Yamareha demonstrates her invisibility spell to the young Magi, and he is surprised. Meanwhile, Alibaba trains with Shirkan. Sinbad takes Alibaba to a vault where he presents him with a sword, claiming it once belonged to King Rashid. Sinbad entrusts the ancestral sword to Alibaba. Morgiana decides to wear the ankle bracelets representing her obligations to her friends. Hakaru finally arrives, and Alibaba hears a voice urging him to hate. Sinbad spots Kajoku, much to Jafar's surprise. Kajoku draws her sword and swings it towards Alibaba. She challenges Sinbad to a duel because she felt aggrieved by the king. Jafar demands Sinbad to explain, whilst Kajoku starts to shed tears. Kuban explains that Princess Kajoku woke up in Sinbad's bed and saw Sinbad sleeping naked next to her. Kajoku threatens to commit suicide if Sinbad doesn't take responsibility. Shirkan and Spardos assert that Sinbad wasn't drunk and went straight to bed. Kajoku shares what happened at the palace. She observes Sinbad around the pillar and never had a chance to speak to him. She says someone knocked her out. Sinbad asks his generals to believe him, but none of them have faith in him. Kalbam insists Sinbad marries Kajoku. Sinbad asks Yamareha to use her magic to prove his innocence. Using Shallow Rekese, Yamareha's water magic recreates the scenes. After proving her wrong, everything is sorted out. Despite seeing what happened, Kuban refuses to accept it. Kajioku apologizes to Sinbad. As everyone wonders who is to blame, Kuban ponders his schemes. It turns out Kuban has the two vassals take Kagyoku to Sinbad's bed. Since the marriage with Ahmed had failed, Kuban believes he can get Sinbad and Kagyoku to marry to protect his way of life. However, the vassals confess that Kuban is behind this incident. Hakuryu intervenes and apologizes to Sinbad for his compatriot's antics. Kuban embraces Kagyoku and pretends to sob. Jafar notices and spits at Kuban. Later, Sinbad talks with Hakuryu, and when Hakuryu points out that Sinbad is lying, Hakuryu reveals his true intentions to destroy the Q Empire. Ren accompanies Sinbad, who plans to invade the Q Empire, but suggests Ren familiarize himself with the place and its people first. Ren, impatient, disagrees. Sinbad then introduces him to Alibaba Saluja. In the lively city, two magicians engage in intense training, exchanging impressive spells. Attempting innovation, one tries new spells, swiftly countered by the other's suggestion. Meanwhile, Sherkan and his partner train diligently. Despite facing challenges, Sherkan's master offers encouragement, assuring him they'll tackle it again another day. Aladdin's friend advises him to change his mood. Aladdin enjoys his challenging training, watching Morgiana struggle to carry a chest, demonstrating her weapon's true power. Ren interrupts, seeking Alibaba under King Sinbad's orders. Ren reveals his identity as the Prince of Balbad, invoking memories that sadden Alibaba. Alibaba writhes in pain, revealing a curse mark. Isnan emerges from his arm, attacked by the king, who explains the curse's consequences before Isnan disappears. The king calms everyone, explaining his resistance to the curse due to his inner energy. Despite few solutions, he proposes a mission to an island with a healing dungeon. Despite Ren's sadness, his companion reassures him as the curse is paralyzed for 10 days. A sea monster emerges but is quickly subdued, allowing our heroes to continue their journey. Arriving at the location, they encountered numerous locals. The girl asks to join their dungeon quest to rescue her parents, but they decline due to time constraints, promising to help later. After a long boat journey, they spot the dungeon's location, but threads capture them, drawing them swiftly toward it. The group arrives in a mysterious forest-like area, needing to determine their location. Heading towards a door leading to the treasure, they encounter talking creatures blocking their path. Despite threats, they pose no real danger. Opening all doors, they find one leading to their destination, encountering a bear that fills the room and attacks when angered. Their teamwork effortlessly defeats the creature. Advancing, they encounter a human-like creature, Djinn 61, servant of the earth, Zagan. This enemy reveals his horrifying act of turning humans into trees due to his hatred for them. Attempting to attack, they find the captive girl being tortured. Despite the dangerous path, they press forward with determination. Zagan raises the dungeon's level due to their powerful allies, turning cute animals into dangerous monsters. Finding a way to defeat them, Alibaba splits a larger monster with his flaming sword while Aladdin generates fireballs. Separated by magic, Ren and Morgiana face tough golems, using inner energy to defeat them. His companions face the same situation, defeating the golems. Ren, tapping into inner energy, is saved by Morgiana's assistance. Morgiana employs superhuman strength against golems, causing them to collide. Ren recalls childhood words shaping his present, feeling remorseful after passing the test. Zagan suggests someone is holding them back, leading to Ren's emotional outbursts and apologies. Ren urges the others to press on without him, but Alibaba, irritated by Ren's immaturity. Thinking they despise him, Ren explains how seeking help could have altered his past in Balbad. With their conflicts resolved, they forge ahead on their mission, unburdened by the weight of their past. Alarm bells ring as Judar breaches the city's protective barrier. Security measures kick in, but their attempts to counter are futile. Sinbad steps up to defend the kingdom. Confronted by numerous foes, the heroes, led by Morgiana, swiftly dispatch several of the attacking dogs. Judar questions the king's alliance with Aladdin, a Magi who poses a threat to him. His inquiry goes unanswered. Revealing his tragic past, Judar seeks sympathy for his vengeful actions, feeding tears to mock others' pity, regardless of the truth behind his story. Amidst the conversation, reinforcements join the fray. Judar warns Sinbad of the repercussions of harboring the Magi and his allies, potentially inviting destruction upon the kingdom. Finding themselves in a verdant realm, they encounter a projection of Zagan, dampening their spirits. The real Zagan lurks in the treasure room. Alibaba confronts Zagan for his cruel transformation of humans into trees, inciting the monster's wrath. Despite severing its neck, Zagan regenerates effortlessly, incapacitating two of the group before Morgiana escapes with them. Falling into a deep pit, Morgiana harnesses the power of her artifact to save them from certain death, surprising even herself. With determination, she faces the guts of the enemy, using her chains skillfully to defeat him. Despite her victory, she falls wounded to the ground. Despite her friends' calls, Morgiana lies in bad condition. Tyre appears, offering comfort to Ren as tears of joy flow. Approaching a large door, they unlock it with the words "Open Sesame," revealing a city within. New enemies emerge, intent on seizing Zaven's treasures and confronting our heroes. The girl activates her power against Aladdin once more, while Ali Baba feels the pain of his wound. Despite their discomfort, they remain vigilant against the enemy. Observing from a distance, the heroes see their allies endure critical attacks, yet Aladdin emerges unharmed once more. Dunya Mustasim, princess of the destroyed Mustasim kingdom, appears alongside a knight named Isaac. Angered by her questioning, Ali Baba asserts Balbad's status as a republic. She aims to kill him with her dark metal container, showcasing her power to the organization. Transforming into a dark monster, she manipulates iron, sand, and minerals at will, frightening our hero. Repelling her attack, Ali Baba retaliates with fireballs while his ally engages the knight. Judah admits to the king his idea of conquering the world but opts for a fight to the death instead. Kajoko questions Judah's motives, surprised by his invitation to join his kingdom as a general, yet she offers no response. The High Command convenes, realizing the city's damage by Judah will take 10 days to repair. Now, everyone is geared up for war. They attack the aerial enemies with arrows while the wizards observe closely. Dumia continues to unleash her full potential in the air, forming a pentagram. Aladdin futilely tries to suppress the attack, and Isaac prevents any approach before his power activates. Finally, her charge completes, generating multiple swords directed at the team. Thousands plummet to the ground. Kilometers away, the heroes continue defending the territory, but the problem is their sheer number. In the air, Pisti gives a signal that alarms everyone. She orders the sea monsters to devour the dark patches of the curse. Though it seemed like a good strategy, they are instantly lifeless. Dunya feels ecstatic as she unleashes her full potential and observes the swords left on the ground. She descends and her transformation reverses. She tells Ithnan that perhaps now the organization can rebuild Mustasim. But as they talk, Ali Baba severely attacks Isaac, while the enemies notice their opponents have been saved. Though badly wounded, Isaac continues to protect his princess. Seizing the opportunity, the young man attacks and notices that his head splits open. He's hollow inside. Isaac was a puppet controlled by her powers. Now his partner ultimately disappears. Dumia is in shock and mourns the death of her companion. Our hero is on guard but realizes she is being controlled like Qasim. Just when it seems like everything will be resolved, Dunya receives a dagger in the back from her ally. She crawls bloodied on the ground. Ali Baba and the others approach to assist her. Something inside our hero manifests, and he feels her soul and memories with Isaac. He also witnesses the last moments of the Mustasim kingdom. He falls deeper into darkness. They witness how enemy soldiers want to kill a small Dunya, and it's Isaac who saves her by receiving the attacks. Both share hatred towards the world, and at times, Ali Baba loses his faith and hope, cursing his own destiny. Aladdin tries to intervene but is attacked by Ithman, who now approaches the young man. Ali Baba strikes him, but falls into the enemy's plan as he too has now become a dark being. When Aladdin attempts to use Solomon's wisdom, Ali Baba's ornament attacks him with Black Rook. Aladdin explains they must crush the ornament. Morgiana unexpectedly appears and fights Ali Baba, who nearly regains his will. However, the ornament causes Ali Baba to throw Morgiana against the wall. Hakuryu becomes Zagan's master and creates a wooden arm for him. He rushes to support his companion. While Hakuryu distracts Ali Baba, Morgiana destroys the ornament with her kick. Then Aladdin uses Solomon's wisdom to enter Ali Baba's mind. Aladdin finds his friend. Suddenly, someone pushes the young Magi. Ali Baba asserts that his destiny is to make mistakes. However, Aladdin has a different response and explains that Ali Baba is a brave person whose destiny is to guide the Rook. Near the shores of Sindria, Sinbad finds Ithman using teleportation magic. He transforms into his Djinn-equipped full-body form. When Ithman believes he has the advantage, Sinbad explains that his body has already been cursed. Sinbad explodes and reduces Ithman to dust. Inside Ali Baba's mind, Aladdin finds Ithman, who wants them to end him. He asks Ithman why he and his organization are doing this. Ithman explains they are freeing everyone from fate. When Aladdin mentions Torin, Ithman gives them an idea of the world that has fallen into darkness. Ithman tries to provoke Ali Baba into attacking him. However, Ali Baba knocks down Ithman's weapon. Ithman wonders how he will confront King Solomon while bathing in the White Rook. Dunya, on the verge of death, sees Isaac before passing away with peace in her mind. When Morgiana realizes Ali Baba is okay, she collapses into Ali Baba's arms after being exhausted. Later, everyone exits the dungeon of Zagan. Aladdin comments that he will act as Alibaba's guide and help him become a great leader. Alibaba takes his friend's hand, and they both look at each other with pride and determination. During the war, Aladdin unleashes his magical power and summons 3 impressive Yugos. His magic becomes evident even from a distance. Sinbad introduces the conquerors of Dungeon Zagan. To celebrate their victory and anticipate the next adventures, the citizens of Sindria immerse themselves in festivities. Aladdin and his friends witness a theatrical representation based on their exploits. Alibaba apologizes for all the concerns he has caused them. Meanwhile, Cowan informs Hakuryu about the orders received from the Q Empire, commanding them to return home. Despite being drunk, Kagyoku refuses. Later, Sinbad talks to Aladdin about 3 other Magi by his side and asks him to go to Riem as a Magi of Sindria, but Aladdin declares that he is not yet the Magi of Sindria. While Aladdin visits Dunya, Sinbad takes Kagyoku for a walk, expressing his wish for her happiness to be eternal, to which she agrees. Jafar observes them and criticizes Sinbad for manipulating Kagyoku, but Sinbad responds that she is valuable, just like Alibaba and his friends. Jafar regrets becoming someone he didn't want to be but acknowledges that it's the path he has chosen. Elsewhere, Alibaba encounters Aladdin, and upon learning that his friend went to see Dunya, confesses that it is painful for him as it reminds him of Qasim. He asserts that he cannot forgive Al-Thimin. Aladdin expresses his appreciation for this world and his determination not to let it disappear. However, he questions what his next step will be. Later, Yamraya gives Aladdin the fixed turban and provides more information about the problematic relationship between the magicians and the Djinn, as well as their homeland, Magnostat. In the courtyard, Kagyoku plays alone with flowers until Alibaba accidentally steps on them. As an apology, he gives her a flower crown. Morgiana watches them while training until she hears a noise coming from Hakuryu, who confesses to her that he will soon depart from Sindria. During Sinbad's meeting with his 8 generals, Yamraya notices that the dark metal vessel bears the symbol of the Magnostat Academy. Meanwhile, Aladdin plays with Dunya, who is finally awakened until they are interrupted by Sinbad and Yamraya. Upon realizing the situation, Yamraya rescues the princess from harassment. On another note, Alibaba and Morgiana intercept Hakuryu to confirm his departure. Hakuryu tells Alibaba that he believes his friend will follow the path dictated by his heart and expresses his gratitude. Sinbad assures Dunya that Sindria has no connection to Magnostat or Yamraya. However, upon touching her, his metal vessels reject her and remnants of the dark metal vessel appear on her body. To save her, Aladdin employs the wisdom of Solomon. As night falls, Alibaba admits that bidding farewell to Hakuryu will be sad. Aladdin announces that he too will embark on a solo journey. Aladdin explains the reasons behind his sudden desire to travel alone. Meanwhile, Sinbad confesses to Yamraya his reluctance for Aladdin to go to Magnostat. Alibaba recalls their shared promise to end Al-Thamin together, but Aladdin insists on the need to acquire more knowledge in order to fulfill his destiny as a king, encouraging Alibaba to find his own path. The next day, during her training with Master, Morgiana inquires her master about his homeland. While suggesting that she should visit, he warns her to keep her expectations moderate, as no finalists reside there. In the palace of Sindria, Aladdin feeds Dunya, who questions his reason for heading to Magnostat. Elsewhere, Alibaba's training is interrupted by Kagyoku, who he nearly strikes in the heat of the moment. She requests his company, but the arrival of Sinbad interrupts their conversation. Facing a combat, both unleash their Djinn. Sinbad halts the fight when Kagyoku unleashes her extreme magic, using sound magic to induce sleep in those present. Later, Sinbad converses with Hakuryu, who once again seeks the king's support in his fight against the Q Empire. While Sinbad promises to consider backing him in times of need, Jafar silently observes before withdrawing. On his part, Kagyoku and Alibaba discuss the battle. Kagyoku plans to return to her country to convince her brother and Judar that Sindria is not their enemy. Jafar reflects privately on Sinbad's actions. Aladdin reveals to Dunya the possibility of finding a cure for her illness, but she admits that her time is limited. After confirming his decision to travel alone, Dunya expresses her gratitude for meeting him before passing away. During her funeral, Alibaba recalls the similarities between Dunya's body and Qasim's. Yamraya laments not being able to help her. Later, Hakuryu shares with Morgiana his past and the tragedy that Al-Thamin inflicted on his family before inquiring about hers. Upon discovering that she lacks a family and was a slave until recently, Hakuryu reflects on the possibility of her having siblings somewhere. Meanwhile, Kagyoku confesses her love for Sinbad to Alibaba and shares details of her past, which are similar to Alibaba's. The two decide to forge a friendship. In the stillness of the night, Aladdin finds himself alone on a cliff with a flower, recalling his conversation with Dunya. After affirming that his homeland is an unknown place to everyone, he drops the flower into the sea. As the group prepares to depart, Yamraya helps Aladdin pack his belongings. Morgiana reveals that her decision to visit her homeland was influenced by Hakuryu, whom she thanks, causing him to blush. Then, Yamraya hands Aladdin the Eye of the Rook, while Master warns Morgiana about the presence of slave traffickers. The 8 generals bid farewell, although Aladdin struggles to remember Sparta's name. Meanwhile, Hakuryu converses with Jafar and expresses his gratitude towards them. Aladdin and Morgiana feel saddened by Alibaba's absence to bid them farewell. After one last conversation with Sinbad, the group sets off. However, Alibaba secretly boards the ship with his friends but keeps himself hidden. He plans to surprise them, but his attempts fail when he confuses the rooms. He had hoped to be missed quickly, but he discovers he's mistaken. Aladdin and company share their true feelings about Alibaba, only to be surprised as they speak ill of him, mentioning his lack of popularity and an embarrassing incident involving Morgiana. Soon, Alibaba realizes that the group knew all along that he was among them. After clearing up the misunderstanding, Alibaba attempts to explain why he joined them, but Hakuryu interrupts his words by mentioning the Shambhala gladiators. Meanwhile, in Sindria, Sherkan, Yamraya, Master, and Sinbad celebrate with a party, discussing who holds the best records. Sherkan recalls accompanying Alibaba for a drink, but the latter only complained about Aladdin's coldness. Alibaba and the group continue their peaceful journey. They are attacked by the southern creature, whom Alibaba quickly defeats to prove his worth. The next day, Morgiana notices a fire at the port of the kingdom of Aksha, being praised for her keen sight by Olba. Soon, they encounter pirates attempting to steal their ship. Before continuing their journey, our heroes are attacked by a group of pirates. They employ magical tools to fight them off. Despite being a large number, they are easily defeated by Alibaba and the others. Olba, who is the leader of the gang, manages through her power to throw our heroes into the sea. Quickly, one of their allies manages to save them all, but the pirates succeed in kidnapping Aladdin, letting the gang escape with the ship's supplies. Later, they arrive at the port of an empire that was also attacked by the pirates some time ago. The navy appears at the scene, and one of the knights mentions that their defenses have been weakened by sending several reinforcements to the empire of Magmestad, which is attempting to expand into other kingdoms. During the conversation, several people ask the allies for help in rescuing their children, who are now in the hands of the pirates. Then, Aladdin wakes up on the pirate's ship. While inspecting the vessel, he notices the emblem of Magmestad on a magical tool that absorbs the Magoi of children to travel through water. When the soldiers mention these magical tools, Hakuryu causes a small seed he had previously left in one of the shipments to grow, which will serve as a guide to find the pirates' hideout. Aladdin arrives at the band's hideout, and during the night, he meets their leader. She is called Medora, and she is the mother of the poor children. The next day, Alibaba communicates with Sinbad to explain the situation. Shortly after, they can reach the pirates' hideout by following the ship's route. With Morgiana's help, they can pass through the walls of the hideout, and now they are face to face with the enemy. Aladdin's mates burst into the pirate stronghold, defeating all resistance while Aladdin is caught. Those who arrive at the scene are surprised to discover that all their opponents are children, even the youngest, who threaten to turn our adventurers into Madoram's offspring, followed by an attack without further words. Meanwhile, Medora approaches our adventurer with a smile on her face, while the rest of the group fights with all their might against these enemies. Medora uses her magical tool, the Holy Mother Halofan, to manipulate Aladdin's feelings, awakening his memories of his long-lost mother. She does the same with Alibaba and the others when they arrive to rescue him. Later, it is revealed that Medora's crew's unwavering loyalty to her is due to the effect of the fan, and she plans to use it on future leaders of the world's nations while they are still children to control their nations. However, Aladdin manages to break free from Medora's spell and helps Alibaba and Morgiana regain their sanity as well. Unfortunately, Hakuryu falls under her influence and turns against his friends to protect Medora. Hakuryu, with his mind manipulated, confronts his own friends until Alibaba manages to destroy his metal vessel, leaving him exhausted and collapsed. Meanwhile, Medora attempts to escape but is captured by the Action Army along with the rest of the pirates. Back at the port, the locals stir up a commotion and attack Medora while she is imprisoned, but Hakuryu intervenes not to protect her, but to execute her in front of the pirates who swear revenge against him. When Alibaba interrogates him about his actions, Hakuryu reveals his true objective: to seek revenge against his own mother. She allied herself with Al-Thamin and conspired with his uncle to usurp the throne of the Q Empire, causing the death of his father and older brothers. Realizing that the children under Medora's spell are on the brink of depravity, Aladdin seeks a way to help them. but is Alibaba who takes on the responsibility for the pirates, inspiring them to move forward together even after Medora's death. As their friends watch the children depart for Sindria, Hakuryu decides to leave without saying goodbye to them. When Morgiana seeks him out, he declares his feelings for her and proposes marriage, but she rejects the proposal. Faced with Hakuryu's sudden departure, Alibaba tries to reason with him, fearing that he may end up suffering as Qasim did when he killed his own father. However, Aladdin decides to confront Hakuryu alone. After a proper farewell, Aladdin returns to his friends as they prepare to continue on their separate paths. Aladdin, Alibaba, and Morgiana celebrate one last party together before embarking on separate paths, promising to reunite again as soon as possible. As Alibaba and Morgiana continue their journey by sea, each with a different destination, Aladdin ventures towards Magnostat on his magic turban until he decides to rest and boards a passing carriage, with the instruction not to disturb the other passenger accompanying him. When the convoy is attacked by bandits, it is revealed that the other traveler is Prince Kuva Ren of the Ku Empire, who defends the group by eliminating the attackers with his metal vessel, thus forming a friendship with Aladdin. Aladdin keeps him company for the rest of the journey to Magnostat. Upon reaching their destination, Kuva and Aladdin bid each other temporary farewell. To gain entry into the country, the young magician must demonstrate his magical abilities by passing a test with the help of a special gem given to him by Yamraiha. This gem allows him to conceal his true nature and avoid manifesting the Rook around him. Forced to channel his magic solely through his own magic, Aladdin is placed in the lowest ranked class of the Magnostat Academy, known as the Sixth Coder. Under the guidance of his teacher Myers, he immerses himself in a rigorous routine of physical training alongside his classmates. Myers reveals that in 2 months they will have another test, and those who do not pass it will be expelled from the academy. Among his peers, Aladdin meets Sphintus, his roommate who initially looks down on him for being assigned to a lower-ranked class, but eventually becomes his friend as he observes his dedication and effort. Myers' intensive training continues for a month, and many students leave the academy due to the difficulties. However, Aladdin and 4 other students persist. Myers then reveals that the purpose of the training was to strengthen their bodies so they could harness more Magoi in their magic. The results of their hard work become evident when they discover that their magical power has increased considerably. After a month of intensive magic classes, the time for Aladdin's exam arrives, which he passes with great success. As a result, he is promoted directly from the 6th to the 1st Coder, the highest ranked class in the academy. Meanwhile, Alibaba finally arrives at his destination, the Reem Empire. After falling victim to deceit and being stripped of all his belongings during his journey, Alibaba, exhausted and hungry, finally arrives at the Coliseum of the Reem Empire, hoping to join the Shambhala gladiators to continue his training. However, having misplaced his letter of recommendation from Sinbad Toto, one of the gladiators refuses to allow him an audience with the leader after easily defeating him in combat. It is then that Alibaba finds protection in the Nando brothers, former members of the Fog Troupe who have amassed wealth thanks to a casino they established in Reem. After fully recovering, Alibaba confronts the leader of the gladiators, Shamble Ramel, requesting a rematch with Toto. With cunning, he manages to defeat him by stripping him of his armor without causing harm. Later, during their encounter, Shamble discovers that Alibaba's body harbors 2 distinct types of Magoi, which poses a conflict that not only hinders his mastery of Djinn equip, but also could endanger his life if he doesn't learn to control it. Impressed by his potential, Shamble accepts Alibaba as his disciple, but imposes the condition of paying for his teaching. To do so, he organizes a battle in the Colosseum against a fierce beast, and among the spectators is Scheherazade, the High Priestess of Reem. Alibaba finds himself faced with a serious challenge as he debuts in the Colosseum, where he is forbidden from using his metal container. Against Garda, an imposing monstrous ape, he is at a disadvantage. Despite his injuries, he tries to surrender, but his pleas fall on deaf ears as the crowd craves a fight to the death. With his left arm broken, Alibaba evokes memories of his childhood with Qasim, recalling how they used to defeat much larger opponents with cunning. Using his wit and leveraging the environment, he manages to turn the situation around and defeat Garda. At that moment, Shamble perceives that the 2 types of Magoi in Alibaba's body have merged into one, realizing that the other Magoi within him belonged to Qasim. After a few days, Alibaba recovers from his injuries, revealing that he has bought Garda's freedom, and now the gigantic ape takes care of him with respect. With this act, Shamble recognizes Alibaba's potential and nobility, finally accepting him as his disciple. Meanwhile, Morgiana finally reaches her destination in the Dark Continent, marking the beginning of new adventures and challenges for her. Disappointed to learn that the Qatar region where she was born is no longer inhabited by the Fanalis, Morgiana is about to be attacked by slave traders when Alibaba's brothers, Abmad and Sabmad, seem to intervene. While they take Morgiana to meet a leader of the local village of Toran, Sabmad reveals that after being ousted from power in Balbad, Sinbad recruited the brothers to work as archaeologists and investigate the mysteries of the elusive Toran culture. After learning that the Fanalis have resettled on the other side of a gigantic canyon known as the Great Rift, Morgiana decides to cross it to finally reunite with her people, despite being warned that no one has ever returned. Upon reaching the bottom of the crevice, Morgiana encounters a house and is greeted by the Magi Yunin, who reaffirms to her that once she crosses to the other side, she won't be able to return even with her powers. Meanwhile, in Magnestat, Kuva is informed that his father, the Emperor, has died and he is summoned back home. Before leaving, he warns the government of Magnestat to surrender or they will be invaded by Q, and he has a brief meeting with Aladdin. Back in the Q Empire, Hakuai reunites with her brother Hakuryu, but she appears displeased with him for some reason, when their brother and Governor General Cowan Ren appears before them. The heirs to the throne of the Q Empire gather to mourn the loss of their father and deliberate on his succession. In this meeting, Hakuai recalls with sadness how her brother Hakuryu became ruthless after acquiring Zagan and rising to the rank of general, although his army consists exclusively of creatures subjugated by him. It is evident that their older brother Cowan will be chosen as the new emperor. However, a conflict arises in the royal court when Mother and Empress Jokwon Ren is proclaimed as the next sovereign according to a testament purportedly left by her deceased husband. This situation generates tensions, although Jokwon claims that she will eventually relinquish the throne to Cowan once her ambition to conquer the entire world has been satiated. After the meeting, Hakuryu tries to persuade Hakui to join him against their mother, but his efforts are in vain. Determined to avenge his father and brothers betrayed by Jokwon, Hakuryu chooses to confront her alone. However, despite his newly acquired power, he is defeated by her. It is then that Jubal offers to assist him in his quest for revenge, provided he is willing to curse his fate. A year after his friend's separation, Aladdin excelled in his studies, showing notable progress that culminated in an exceptional performance in the final exam of the first coder. With his magical abilities, he created a monumental mirage that impressed everyone at the academy. His friends were certain he would be awarded as the top student of the first coder, but they were perplexed when the honor was bestowed upon Titus Alexius from the Reem Empire. As Aladdin settled into his new room, Titus approached with the intention of striking up a friendship, acknowledging Aladdin's talent as a brilliant student. However, the friendly gesture faded when, in a moment of mistrust, Aladdin touched Titus thinking he was a girl. Titus' angry reaction was quelled by the intervention of Madal Mogamet, the Chancellor of the Academy, who witnessed the scene. Mogamet announced that Aladdin and Titus would undergo a skills test through a confrontation to determine their suitability for advanced classes. The battle was intense, with both young men demonstrating exceptional mastery of their respective magical powers. However, the duel reached a critical point when the jewels embedded in both students' arms were accidentally exposed. Recognizing the rarity of these gems, Mogamet decided to personally recommend both students for advanced classes. However, the peace was short-lived. When Aladdin sought to discuss the significance of the jewels with Titus, the latter suddenly attacked him, leaving him unconscious despite Mogamet's intervention, who ordered Titus to be placed in isolation. As Aladdin struggled to recover, Titus contacted Scheherazade, who entrusted him to continue with his mission, arguing that it was the fundamental reason for his existence. Titus surprises Aladdin in the middle of the night, revealing his identity as Scheherazade's wizard and confessing his secret mission. At the same time, he displays a ruby crystal on his forearm which allows him to communicate telepathically with his Magi, but he discovers that Aladdin's crystal serves a different function. Despite the initial disappointment, Aladdin seeks Titus's friendship, who eventually agrees to accompany them to the Magic City. The Magic City dazzles the three visitors with its splendor and magic. Sphintus is amazed to see how magical tools have replaced the need for slaves compared to his homeland. Sphintus is treated with reverence due to his status as a wizard, while Aladdin, although also a wizard, is viewed with less prestige. However, Titus finds joy in life's simple pleasures, such as taking care of a kitten, despite objections from his creators. The class system in the Magic City divides citizens into 5 categories, ranging from professors and students to common citizens and the most disadvantaged. Aladdin discovers that the 5th district is restricted, and the following night, Titus seeks his help to infiltrate the professor's library and uncover more about this district. With the help of Aladdin and Sphintus's magic, they manage to enter the library and find a secret passage leading to the underground part of the city, where the 5th-class citizens reside. The bleak underworld of the 5th district is described as a place without hope, where the magoi of its inhabitants is constantly drained to fuel the luxurious comforts of the surface. Desperation is palpable as Aladdin and his friends witness the agony of a girl named Marta, whose life fades due to the loss of her magoi. Titus, moved by her situation, creates a barrier to stop the draining process and offers assistance, even if it means sacrificing part of his own life force. The group discovers that the 5th district is actually a Magoid production factory, where inhabitants are treated as tools to maintain the well-being of higher-class citizens. Despite the social differences, Aladdin, Titus, and their friends decide to help Marga, who dreams of escaping her bleak existence and becoming a scholar or a healer. Aladdin's kind gesture of transforming the sand into a representation of the city and playing with Marga shows a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. However, the harsh reality of Marga's situation becomes evident when she reveals that her heart condition condemns her to an early death despite efforts to save her. The constant presence of a squad of magicians patrolling the district and eliminating the dying underscores the cruelty and indifference of the authorities towards the 5th-class inhabitants. Despite warnings of deadly consequences, Titus and Aladdin decide to intervene to save Marga from her inevitable fate, risking their own lives in the process. Doron throws the girl into the well while Aladdin and Titus, without hesitation, plunge into the dark abyss in a desperate attempt to rescue Marga and defy the cruel system that condemns her. Titus manages to save a girl from the void. The others, appearing as enemies, question who they are, and they respond by destroying the site. Their opponent suddenly unsheathes a dangerous plant as his weapon. The plant gravely injured our hero. He dies, but is assisted by Sherkin, who revives him. When all seems lost, a lightning bolt strikes the monster, which is executed by Myers. She rebukes those present. Aladdin is later judged for breaking the law by infiltrating the district, but luckily he is pardoned. Mogammed then requests to have a conversation. In the discussion, he asked about Yamaraiha, mentioning the bond they shared for several years. After confirming that the headmaster is a good person, Aladdin wonders about the motive that led Mogammed to destroy the Mustang Empire. And to resolve everything at once, he summons the students and begins by stating that the Ruksh is the energy that moves the world. However, they have never shaped the course of history. Other empires were the ones that shaped the world's trajectory, mainly governed by Goys. He then uses clairvoyance magic and shows the students memories from the past events that occurred in the Mustang Empire, and basically the mages who served the royalty were discriminated against, treated as less than human, and forced to work to the point where several died, as happened to his wife. Despite the injustices, Mogammed fervently believed that mages were born with a specific purpose, which was to help people. So far, so good, but later on, the mages were involved in a war in which all died, leaving only Mogammed alive. When he sees how the Goys live, caring for nothing, he realizes the grave mistake he made. That is why he founded a country exclusively inhabited by mages, to guide them to a better world. Mogammed picks up the story, commenting that they temporarily form an alliance with the Goys, which ends up sparking a conflict involving innocents. Aladdin takes a few seconds to think, then reproaches Mogammed for the people of the 5th level and the poor state in which they live. However, the old man speaks of them as if they are inferior, and also mentions that they live with basic needs without the necessity of working. Mogammed tells his students that mages must control the Goys in order to progress, as they are born to guide the world along the right path. Days later, while Aladdin is walking with the others, he is shocked by the old man's attitudes as a Goy approaches Mogammed to ask for something, and he cruelly attacks him. He sees humans as mere insects. Shortly after, Marga receives magical treatment to extend her life. The next day, they have a class discussing the Black Rook, with which one can create an artificial life form through a novel alchemy process, this being the ultimate spell. Titus bids farewell to Scheherazade, who tells him not to become attached to people as he has little time left. Our hero turns to the headmaster, expressing concern and explaining that he does not want to die as he plans to spend more time with Marga. The boy explains to the director that he is not a human as he was actually created through Scheherazade's magic. Titus loses control after cursing his cruel fate. For a moment, Scheherazade becomes conscious in her body and tells Mogammed to surrender to her powerful empire. The wizard does not hesitate and cuts off his communication with the queen. Later, Mogammed tells Aladdin that he once bestowed his magic upon Ithmin, but realized it was a mistake as it ended up in the hands of the Goys. The youth mentions the tools provided to the pirates, and the director mentions that to build the kingdom they needed to raise funds. The next day, the director announces that they will wage war against the Reem Empire, and Titus laments as this empire has 3 dungeon conquerors, which could make it impossible to win the war. Nevertheless, the director persists with his idea. What happens days later is that news of the war spreads rapidly throughout the kingdom. The wizards are ready to appear in battle, and Titus, although worried, prepares anyway to face the enemy. He feels pain as he recalls some memories. He encounters a newly arrived Aladdin, who tells him that he too will join the battle in order to prevent a possible disaster for the fate of the other kingdoms. The next morning, they prepare for combat. Rain's army arrives at the Empire, led by Scheherazade. The troops advance but are stopped by a magical barrier that prevents them from continuing the invasion. The director explains that the kingdom has multiple layers of protection. The allies distract the soldiers to keep them occupied breaking through the layers while they activate their powers to successfully defeat several enemies. Suddenly, several Ream ships begin to drop bombs on what would be the kingdom's roof. After numerous strikes, the seal breaks and now the soldiers advance with determination. Elsewhere, Aladdin witnesses the casualties of battle and with mixed feelings decides to approach the battlefield. Suddenly, he halts halfway as he encounters a large machine that disposes of everyone in seconds, creating a massive explosion. Just when it seemed like the end for Ream's army, the most important troops emerge on the scene and can swiftly deal with the majority of the allied army. In response, the wizards decide to recharge the weapon once more. Seeing that this machine is powered by weakened Goys, Aladdin destroys it and heads towards the battleground. Aladdin decides to use his powers, but finds it impossible to do so. Fortunately, the wizards save him from this unexpected predicament. A very tough fight ensues between both sides. Aladdin uses his magic to destroy the terrain and divert the river water towards the enemies. The wizards take advantage of all the enemies being underwater and summon a lightning bolt to finish off the remaining troops. Suddenly, Aladdin begins to receive a large amount of Megoi from the Rook. Meanwhile, Nefanilis troops regroup and use special attacks originating from the enemy's artifact. Thanks to this, they dispose of a large number of wizards in minutes. At one point, they attempt to destroy the protective barrier, but Aladdin tries to prevent this from happening and easily strikes them down. After proving his identity as a Magi, the youth fires a warning shot at the enemy to stop the fight once and for all. After having a conversation with the director, Aladdin prepares to launch another attack as he receives no positive responses from his adversary. This time, the attack is different as it creates a sand avalanche that drives the enemies towards the shores. The entire army decides to surrender except for their leader, who walks furiously towards where our heroes are positioned. He now harnesses the power of Barbados and summons his Djinn equipment, with which he can easily penetrate the protective barrier. He engages in a confrontation with our hero, but before he can finish him off, he cannot tolerate this new transformation, as if he exceeds minutes in this state, he could end up dying. When he launches the attack and it seems like he will cause total devastation to the body of young Aladdin, Alibaba intervenes heroically, as everything is spiraling out of control. Now Alibaba apologizes to Nu for the tension that escalated to that level, but the unexpected thing is that now Scheherazade has appeared on the scene. Our protagonist explains to her that she must stop invading the realm of the wizards, otherwise very bad things will happen in the world. With an expressionless face, she decides to withdraw her troops. Later, both sides move away from the place to talk in private. The conversation extends until midnight. Scheherazade reveals that her true body is somewhere in her realm where she secretly rests, as she is too old to even move. Then Aladdin finishes telling a tragic story about a vision he had, leaving those present speechless. Immediately, Alibaba reprimands him and tells him that he is not alone, as he is surrounded by friends and allies. Later, Scheherazade talks to Titus and apologizes. She also tells him that Ream's troops will wait until dawn to withdraw their forces, implying that the war has come to an end. Shortly after, a soldier announces that the Ku army has set out with a large number of soldiers under their command. Mogamit withdraws from the site to prepare the attack, but a congregation of people from the 5th level begins to complain about everything that is happening. As memories of his hatred towards the Goys resurface, Mogamit explodes and begins to violently attack several of them. Clearly, everyone is surprised as they did not know the director's true thoughts towards the Goy population. Then the old man descends to the lowest part of the district with the sole idea of defending the wizards. He enters a secret room where he uses the bodies of several condemned to death to produce the Black Rook with which he can control the Djinn he created when Mogamit met Ithnan. If the war wasn't the worst, an immense amount of Black Rook emerges from the kingdom. Aladdin and Alibaba approach the site, but the Djinn quickly leave the place. We see Kuha leading the Ku army when, unexpectedly, they are attacked by multiple Djinn. One of them ends up eliminating a large part of the army. After his futile attempts to vanquish them, Hua channels his utmost power, ultimately annihilating the Djinns. Yet the narrative doesn't culminate there. From the ashes of the defeated foes, a formidable surge of Black Rook emerges, converging back to its origin, nullifying all the efforts of the young warriors as mere wasted time. Giants immediately arrive to dispose of the rest of the army, and it is Mogamit himself who controls them. When Como was about to lose the battle, Alibaba entered the scene to intervene in this massacre. Aladdin does the same, and together they manage to contain the majority of the monsters. Cowan arrives at the scene, and his companions easily defeat all the enemies. He then approaches Kuva, and thanks to his phoenix power, one of his 3 Djinns, he can heal his wounds. Alibaba arrives moments later with his ally and explains that he is the Prince of Balbad, who intervened in the battle to save Ren Kua's life. Although initially doubtful, they eventually make a peaceful agreement. Returning to where Mogammed is, he recalls all the Djinns and also makes a deceitful move by sending these enemies to Shahrazade's location to assassinate her. She and her troops engage in combat, but they are outnumbered compared to the potential of their giant enemies. While this is happening, Titus encounters Morga and realizes he must make a decision. Shortly after, he heads to where the director is, and after a failed conversation, Titus uses all the power bestowed upon him by Scheherazade to stop the director's depravity, thus thwarting the old man's plans. Just when it seemed that everything was over, the furnace controlled by the director begins to gather Megoi on its own and transforms into a mass of energy mixed with Rook that ascends towards the surface and summons a dark entity in the sky. Witnessing this nightmare, Aladdin instructs Kovan to immediately withdraw his troops from the area and also summons all the Djinns present to explain the situation they are facing. They tell their owners that they must destroy the medium to prevent the end of the world, as this beast named Il-Ila is the embodiment of evil. After hearing the explanation, Kovan becomes interested in Aladdin, who is the representative of Solomon. Taking advantage of this, the boy tells him that he will tell him the story of the world if he helps to destroy the medium. Kovan quickly agrees to the deal, sending a signal to all the conquerors of Kau to be ready for battle. He activates his Djinn equipment, followed by Kuva and Alibaba, who do the same. Later, the medium begins to create an army of monsters to destroy the kingdom more quickly. Scheherazade starts to protect the people but gets injured in the process. However, nothing else happens to her because Alibaba helps her in time. Kovan appears at the site accompanied by his brothers, and after meeting with them, they begin to work together, being protected by Kaume. After several failed attempts to destroy the medium, Aladdin mentions that they must defeat all the giants to weaken the medium's barrier. Getting to work, Kovan starts destroying several Djinn and instantly changes his equipment to the Agar's one. He extracts a large amount of earth until he reaches its core, generating a stream of lava that replenishes the Megoi of his first metal container. He successfully destroys whoever crosses his path once again, but due to the large number of enemies, Koman takes Alibaba to where the lava is to recharge the Megoi of his container, so they can combine their ultimate attacks, creating a powerful magic that can momentarily stop the creation of the Djinn. Although it seems that magic in its extreme state is not enough, Koman continues to add more flames to the attack launch, creating a stronger magic that severely damages the medium. When Alibaba finally sees his opportunity to launch the attack, it turns out to be the one needed to completely pierce through the enemy, exploding in the air into pieces. Despite the combined efforts of Alibaba and Cowan, the medium barrier remained intact, sealing off the volcano to prevent the replenishment of its Megoi. Shortly after, the medium took on a grotesque, almost humanoid form, absorbing the white root from everything it touched. After inflicting severe damage to Cowan and Alibaba, Calvin's brothers joined forces to launch a sequence of powerful attacks against him, only to discover that by throwing him into the ocean, he grew even stronger by absorbing the rook of the sea. Back at the Ku Palace, Joquin watched the battle in astonishment, reminiscing about her past as one of Solomon's Magi and Almatoran before betraying him. Exhausted from the constant struggle, Aladdin and his companions could barely contain the medium as it began to extract Il-Ila from the skies. At that moment, Sinbad appeared to assist them, accompanied by Drekon, Yenraiha, and other king vessels from the Alliance of the Seven Seas. Surprised by their sudden arrival, Sinbad informed Aladdin that Yunin and Morgiana had previously warned them about the situation, and that they would also join the battle against the medium. As the wizards strive to rescue the wounded in Magnustat, Mu and the other Ream ships join the battle. In a final effort to destroy the medium, Scheherazade sacrifices herself to revitalize the exhausted king vessels with the last of her Megoi, and all dungeon capturers join forces to attack it with all their might at the same time. However, the medium survives the blow, but Aladdin glimpses a small light within it that makes him doubt. Convinced that it must somehow be related to Titus and Mogammed, the wizards use Solomon's wisdom to reach them, accompanied by Yenraiha, who also wishes to reunite with her adoptive father. They find Mogammed being comforted by Titus's rook, and the Chancellor reveals his regret for all the trouble he caused and for all the people he led into depravity to create the medium. At that moment, it is revealed that Yenraiha was kidnapped from the royal palace in Mustasim when she was a child and raised by him, but she claims that she does not regret it at all, and that he will always be a father to her. Mogammed decides to depart towards the Great Flow of Rook after asking Aladdin to seek a way to redeem those who had fallen into depravity and return them to the White Rook as well. As the medium collapses, Joquin rejoices because, although she couldn't bring forth Il-Ira this time, the medium had weakened the boundaries between worlds, and another medium can bring its advent immediately once completed. Meanwhile, in the Grand Palace, Hugo greets Scheherazade and offers her the opportunity to reincarnate as a Magi. but she allows Titus to do so in her place. The Ku Empire then focuses its attention on conquering Magnestat, but Sinbad declares that Sindria and its allies have joined forces with the Reem Empire, and he will take custody of the country for the sake of its reconstruction. Cowan decides to take Aladdin with him and make him fulfill this part of the deal, but their discussion is interrupted when Titus, now reincarnated as one of the new Magi of Reem, appears before them, much to the joy of his friends. On the other hand, Judah and Hakaryu, who were observing the entire battle from afar, gather all the scattered black rook from the medium, and before departing with him, Hakaryu bids farewell to Aladdin and the others, stating that to follow the path he has chosen, he must confront them. The end! Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new anime recaps.